Generation 9 gave us some interesting regional variants. We got Wooper with a new evolution in Clodsire, we got 3 different variations of Tauros, and then there's Wiglet and Wugtrio. While there is some differences in stats between the regular Tauros and Paldean variants, and between Quag and Clodsire, Wugtrio has the exact same stats as Dugtrio, and the only thing changing is its typing. Today we're going to backport the water type and see how fast it can beat Generation 1. Rules are in the description. As a side note, I did do a Dugtrio run well over a year ago. I recorded it right before Scott's 3-way versus video of Dugtrio, Marowak, and Sandslash. But it's one of those runs, along with Poliwrath, that never got its own video. It finished the game at level 71 with an in-game time of around 3 hours and 50 minutes, which you might be thinking, hey, not bad for a frail ground type. But over a year later, it can definitely be improved a lot. And speaking of being frail, considering Wugtrio has the exact same stats as Dugtrio as you saw before, it's going to have that frailness as well. We know that the attack and speed are great, and the special we can get by with being a water type, but the abysmal HP and defense could be a problem. In the early game, we don't have to overtrain for Brock since we start with Water Gun, but after I defeat the mandatory bug catcher at the end of the forest, who did beat me once and I restarted this run, I'm going to take on the Junior Light Years trainer, and I should note, you can lose this battle, and I do, thanks to Sand Attack being a pain in the ass. But rather than restart the entire run because I haven't saved to this point, I just take the experience and black out. This means we'll face Brock at level 9, and level 9 allows you to one-shot the Geodude, and as far as Onyx goes, I crit. So we'll never know. And that additional experience and level will help with getting through the trainers on the way to Mount Moon, because Wugtrio can't one-shot a lot of these Pokemon, which means they're gonna have the opportunity to attack back. And being that we don't have the highest HP or defense stat, it can get bad quickly. In Mount Moon, there are 2 optional trainers I'm going to take on, the Hiker with 2 Geodudes and an Onix, and the Rocket Raticate Grunt. And this second battle could get ugly. Both Hyper Fang and Quick Attack will hit hard, but we have a secret weapon that honestly came in clutch in this run, and that's Wrap. You guys know about trapping moves in Generation 1. They're OP. If you outspeed your opponent, it's possible they will never get a turn in battle, and this isn't going to be the last time you see this in action. I'm only level 16 by the time I take out the Super Nerd's final Pokemon and take the Helix fossil, and I know in the past I've talked about not getting to Cerulean too underleveled, but Wugtrio has the perfect move for Misty. You might think by the perfect move, I mean Wrap, but I actually mean Bide, a move I don't use very often. Due to her AI, she will never use her water moves. Since I outspeed Staryu, it will never hit me as long as I can hit Wrap over and over, which is exactly what happens here. And against Starmie, I want to turn 1 X defend since it does outspeed me, which I do get. Ideally, you want a 3-turn Bide. You'd like for Misty to do at least 30 HP worth of damage to you since Starmie has 59 HP, and unfortunately, I don't get that. I get a 2-turn Bide, and unfortunately, I can't finish off her ace because I get a 2-turn Wrap twice, and that's my first reset. In the next battle though, I get a 3-turn Bide to one-shot her star. And my prize is the TM for Bubble Beam, which will immediately take the place of Water Gun on my moveset. I wanted Bubble Beam for the Rival and Nugget Bridge. It doesn't one-shot Pidgeotto. I really should have used Wrap Strats on it, and it does get a Sand Attack off on me before going down. I do still have Bide as a way to bypass accuracy checks, and while I don't need it for Abra or Rattata, it could come in handy against Bulbasaur. It hits me with an early Leech Seed, and when Wrap does hit, thanks to Leech Seed, it's healing back almost as much damage as I'm dealing. I switched to Bubble Beam, which is doing more damage at this point, but the 1 Sand Attack has ruined my accuracy, and I take a second reset. In the next battle, I have my accuracy in check thanks to using Wrap Strats on Pidgeotto, but I have next to no health thanks to it quick attacking me down. Fortunately for me, I do outspeed Bulbasaur and it doesn't get a chance to hit me, as Wrap doesn't miss and I chip down the grass type for the win. Nothing on Nugget Bridge is threatening. The increase in power that Bubble Beam provides allows me to one-shot a lot of Pokemon here, but there are a few that I need to utilize Wrap Strats on, which does slow some things down. By the time I defeat the 4th trainer, Wugtrio levels up to 21 and can learn Water Pulse. Bide doesn't really have too much purpose anymore, so I delete that in its place. I'm going to take this time to quickly go over Wugtrio's move pool since I didn't at the beginning of the video. Looking at the Gen 9 set, I did add in a few new moves. In terms of new moves, I gave it Mud Slap, Water Pulse, its signature move Triple Dive, which for Gen 1 purposes is like a water type Fury Swipes, and Throat Chop. I did replace some moves like Water Gun for Aqua Jet, Waterfall for Liquidation, and Slash for Sucker Punch, and as far as TMs go, I replaced the Ground and Rock moves aside from Dig with Water and Ice moves. Now with that out of the way, let's jump to the SSN. Wugtrio is going to get 2 upgrades to its moveset here. The first is Body Slam. 85 power with the chance to paralyze, combined with our good attack stat, it'll provide a good option. And the other is going to be Dig. I'm also going to be picking up the Gentleman Candy. I don't think it will be necessary, but on the slim chance I need an extra level or 2 for an early surge, it's worth it. And we have a first in a long time on the channel. I think since the Sanqui Rhyperior video I did over a year ago, I lose to the rival on the SSN. And it's because I don't go for Wrap first on Pidgeotto, I go straight Water Pulse, and it hits me with 5 sand attacks in total. I don't hit another attack after my opening one, and it's frustrating because when I reset, I'm all the way back at the last before Bill's house. I thought she would give me trouble, but she didn't. I just wrapped down her Oddishes. And this is part in why I don't use real time for my metric. I lose about 2.5–3 minutes just having to battle the Lass again, the Innocent Bystander, the 2 mandatory trainers outside of Vermilion. You get the picture. I've learned my lesson from the first battle. I'm just going to wrap down Pidgeotto, and once it gets to low health, I Water Pulse it into the Void, and with my accuracy in check, I have no problem with the remainder of the rival's team. But the question now becomes, will I have to use Wrap strats on Surge, or will Dig do what it needs to do and get 3 one-shots? And the answer is, Dig does what it should. I outspeed all of his Pokemon, and it gets me 3 one-shots. Since we've made some progress with Wugtrio, let's flip it over to Dugtrio. I mentioned earlier that I did a playthrough with it back in the day, and I decided why not do another double feature. There are differences in the early game with these Pokemon. While Wugtrio fought only the mandatory bug catcher and the Junior Light Years trainer, twice because I blacked out to him, Dugtrio is going to be fighting all of the bug catchers and the Junior Light Years trainer. One thing I remember when I first sat down to run this Pokemon well over a year ago was looking at what J-Rose did in his run. A big sticking point for him I remember was Cerulean City, and he mentioned resetting the run a few times. I know the rival's Pidgeotto was a huge pain in the ass, since the best moves you have to attack it with are Scratch and Bide if you choose to go that route, and I didn't want to fall into the same trap. Part of me wishes I still had the footage of my playthrough from well over a year ago, but it's okay. And just to cut back to the run really quick, I actually almost lose to the Junior Light Years trainer with Dugtrio also. I get by this one on 1 HP thanks to Sand Attack and a Gen 1 miss by Dig. Brock also isn't automatic. Even at level 10, I come into this battle with 3 PP of Dig remaining, hoping that would be enough, and Dig doesn't even one-shot Geodude. To save my remaining PP for Onix, I go for Scratch to knock this thing out, and it brings me down to 3 HP before I can take it out. I also get very lucky with Onix. Not only are my 2 Digs enough thanks to a crit to take it out, but I get a turn 1 Screech instead of a turn 1 Bide. Skipping ahead to Mount Moon, I'm going to pick up 3 optional trainers, this Super Nerd near the Candy and Escape Rope, the Hiker with 2 Geodudes and an Onix, and the Rocket Raticate Grunt. Dugtrio is going to be level 17 by the time it enters Cerulean City, but I can take on the Swimmer in Misty's gym to get myself to level 18, and I have 2 candies at my disposal to get to 20 if needed. And I might just need level 20 because the rival is awful. I decided to try Bide strats in hopes Pidgeotto actually attacks me, but it does go for Sand Attack on the first turn. And this is weird to say, but I need to still be careful with Rattata because it has Quick Attack, and if it were to crit, it would definitely finish off my frail mole. It doesn't happen in this battle, but Squirtle is easily able to clean me up. When I did this run over a year ago, I gave the rival the Bulbasaur team, and instead of resetting in the beginning to give him said team, I decided to just roll with the Squirtle team. And after a few more failed attempts, I decided to pop my candies to level 20. Pidgeotto fails 3 out of its 4 sand attacks thankfully, and I have a lot more health this time around to win on my first attempt at this level. I'm going to jump past Nugget Bridge and straight to Misty. I didn't take any extra battles along the way and Dugtrio is level 23. I'm not sure what the ranges look like if I would have attempted this at 20, but Dig easily one-shot star you, and Dig will two-shot star me. Although I'm curious if we could have survived a Bubble Beam, probably wouldn't have survived a crit. We're going to jump straight to the SSN. Like Wugtrio did, Dugtrio is going to be getting the TM for Body Slam and the Gentleman Candy. And unlike Wugtrio, we don't lose to the rival. Body Slam is a huge upgrade over Scratch and two-shots his annoying lead Bird. And with it, along with Dig, we can easily take care of the rest of his team. Surge. We're gonna continue to stick with Dugtrio as we head to Rock Tunnel. The only 2 trainers who might, and I say this very loosely, give you problems are the Rapping Lass or the Status Condition Junior Trainer in Rock Tunnel. And that's if you were to Gen 1 miss or miss a range or get some other god-awful luck. And I guess you could say the same about the Hiker if you Gen 1 missed a dig and they blew up in your face as you were above ground. But we don't get any of that today, and I'm going to skip ahead to Celadon. I'm going to be picking up the Eevee with Dugtrio, since I have to go to the Mart anyway for vitamins and a Pokédoll to get Mimic later on, and I'm going to be making my Mart trip after I beat the Rocket Hideout. Giovanni isn't a problem. Dig one-shots his rock types, while it two-shots the Kangaskhan, who thankfully just misses when it does have a chance to hit me. Afterwards, I'm going to sell off a bunch of items. During this time, I'm going to get the TM for Rock Slide from the girl on the roof. Then, after buying a Water Stone, Pokédoll, and Repels, I purchase 4 proteins to boost Dugtrio's attack. I'm going to be skipping Erica for now and head to Pokemon Tower. The rival isn't a challenge, and it's great to have a move like Rock Slide on my moveset now, which annihilates Pidgeotto. The channelers here aren't a problem either thanks to Dig, and I need to decide where I'm going to head afterwards. The answer is pretty easy to me though. I'm going to head to Cycling Road in Fuchsia. Cycling Road will provide some training for Dugtrio as I prepare for what's to come in the late game. I'm going to be picking up 4 optional battles on my way to Fuchsia. Against this biker, this biker, this biker, and this biker. After heading through the Safari Zone, I beeline it for Koga's gym. I've hit level 35 by now and have taught Slash in the place of Sand Attack. Slash easily mows down the Juggler's Pokemon thanks to the guaranteed crit, and I don't expect Koga to be a challenge either. And as you would expect, Dig one-shots his entire team with the exception of Weezing, who just blows up while we're underground. I love when he does that. Let's jump straight into Erica. Now that we have Slash, Victreebel is an easy one-shot, but what shocks me is that both Tangela and Vileplume survive a Slash. Tangela just wastes my time with Bind. I also really want to run this thing. I might make a video on it soon. And Vileplume misses a Sleep Powder. And had it hit, I was totally expecting a Petal Dance to just wreck me. As our 3-headed mole surfs across the sea to head to Cinnabar, why don't we check in with our Garden Eel Pokemon, who last left off defeating Surge. Rock Tunnel is next, and we can utilize Rap Strats for things like Slowpoke or the few grass types we come across along the way. Of course, for the Rapping Lass that you see me facing now, Body Slam is more than enough to get the job done. So let's pick things up in Celadon. Like I did with Dugtrio, I want to go through the hideout first to get some items to sell at the mart, because I plan on picking up some vitamins. While Dugtrio got proteins, Wugtrio is going to be getting calciums. While battling the grunts that guard the way to Giovanni's chamber, I hit level 30 and can learn my signature move, Triple Dive, which I delete Water Pulse for. And Triple Dive is going to be a staple going forward, and you could see it immediately put in work against Giovanni. We're going to skip Erica for now. While I could beat her utilizing the Rap Strats, I'd rather come back at a slightly higher level in hopes that it doesn't come to that, so I head to Pokemon Tower instead. And luckily I don't have to utilize Rap Strats against the rival's Pidgeotto. Triple Dive gets the job done with one use, but I do have to utilize Rap Strats on Gyarados. Body Slam won't get the one shot, and Dragon Rage would cut my HP in half. While it's a slow battle, I do make it through unharmed, and I can clean up the rest of his team pretty easily. I'm going to jump cut to Fuchsia Gym. Wugtrio to this point has followed the same path as Dugtrio, even facing the same optional trainers on Cycling Road. And something very annoying happens in Koga's gym. I get poisoned by this first juggler, and I was hoping I could make it through the next battle while poisoned. I do have a full restore in my bag, but I want to use it before Koga. I'd rather not use it and then just get poisoned again in the very next battle. I do a safety save prior to the second juggler, but he beats me twice. I bite the bullet and pop my full restore, and I don't get punished in the next battle. Koga goes as you would imagine, for the most part. I can one-shot the first coughing with Dig, and then I utilize Wrap Strats on Muck. I get its HP low enough to where I think Dig will finish it, but it hangs on with a Sliver and hits me with a Sludge that does well over half. While I finish it off the next turn, I need to be careful. The second coughing goes down in one shot, and last is Wheezing. I wrap this thing down until it's nearly at half health as Koga pops an X attack during that time, and then I go for Dig, but I get a Gen 1 miss. Wheezing punishes me with Sludge, and it takes me out. I couldn't believe it. In the next battle, I don't get an unlucky Gen 1 miss, even though Koga pops 2 X attacks this time, and that's 4 badges in hand. Before we head to Silphco, we're going to make a quick detour to Celadon to get our Rainbow Badge, and although I outlevel Erica's Pokemon by 10 or more levels, I still use Wrap Strats on the opening Victory Bell, along with Vileplume, whom Dig crits to finish off. Silphco. Part of the reason why I wanted to come here first was to pick up Lapras. I skipped the Eevee in this run, so I didn't get Vaporeon for Surf. Also, you could probably hear my cat Nugget in the background there. I'm super behind on finishing this video. I'm going to make a pit stop to the 10th floor for the Carbos and Candy, and after defeating the grunt that guards the card key, Wugtrio reaches level 40. From here, I'm going to pop 3 candies to level 43. This is going to give me the next damage rounding threshold, but I can also learn Slash at level 42 in the place of Body Slam, and we're going to see Slash in action immediately against the rival. I go for Wrap Strats on Pidgeot for the main reason that I don't want to see Sand Attack, and when Gyarados comes out, I can 2-shot it with Slash. Growlithe is irrelevant, but against Alakazam, I should have gone for straight Slash on it, but instead I play it overly cautious and use Wrap Strats. I didn't want this thing living on a Sliver and then critting something like Psybeam and confusing me, but against Venusaur, Wrap Strats are key to get this thing into a comfortable range for something like Slash or Dig to finish it. There's not much to say about Giovanni. I can 1 or 2-shot his entire team. We just have a great moveset for what's remaining right now, but there will be some small changes that we make. After I defeat Giovanni, I head to Copycat's house for Mimic. I end up not using this with Wugtrio, but we will see some use of it with Dugtrio. As far as Sabrina goes, I outspeed all of her Pokemon, and Slash and its guaranteed crit chance one-shot her entire team, including Venomoth. Cinnabar Mansion. Here, I will be picking up the TM for Blizzard as something to have for Lance and the champions Pidgeot and Venusaur as some super effective options. Blaine, as you would expect, is not a challenge. I came into this battle with 4 triple dives left, 1 for each Pokemon, and while I do miss on Ponyta, which is annoying, I switched to Dig for the following Rapidash. Despite getting hit by a Growl, Dig just crits it to one-shot it. Triple Dive then follows up critting Arcanine and gets just enough hits to one-shot it. And Triple Dive continues against Giovanni. I do hit level 48 in this battle, but I'm not going to learn Throat Chop. While it would provide some super effective damage against Alakazam and Agatha's Ghost, I have Slash and Dig, which are more than enough to get the job done. After defeating Giovanni, I'm going to pop candies to go from level 48 to 53 to bring me above 2 damage rounding thresholds before the Rival 6 battle. And while Pidgeot no longer has Sand Attack, I still utilize Wrap Strats on it. You can see that Quick Attack does just under a quarter to us, and I'm going to be using Wrap Strats on Gyarados as well. I don't want to get hit with Dragon Rage from this thing, and the rest of his team is pretty easy. I can one-shot both Growlithe and Alakazam, and against Venusaur, I just need Wrap to not miss. I've actually had decent luck in this run with it not missing. I get it in a comfortable range for Slash to finish it, and Wugtrio is off to the league. In Victory Road, I'm going to be getting the candy along with 2 optional battles. My favorite to get, the Cool Trainer with the Chansey, and this battle has me just on the outside of level 55 in terms of experience, so I battled this juggler right before you exit Victory Road to reach level 55. Now, Wugtrio is ready for the league, but before we dive into it, let's hop back to Dugtrio. We last left off heading to Cinnabar, and this is really where the runs differ, where Wugtrio went to Silphco first. And I'm only heading here now because I have a Surfer to get me there, plus I don't want to try facing the rival's Venusaur. It will definitely help to get Blaine's badge to boost our OK special stat, and although we don't have Earthquake, which we'll soon get, Blaine won't be a challenge. The biggest surprises in this battle are that Rock Slide doesn't one-shot Growlithe, it just barely hangs on but just misses a Leer, and Slash doesn't one-shot Ponyta, but Blaine just wastes his time using a Super Potion. I thought for sure I'd one-shot his weaker first form Mons, but at the end of the day, I make it through this battle without taking a point of damage, so let's just move on to Silphco. One thing I do want to note is that before heading here, I actually did do another Celadon Mart for calciums. I'm just thinking down the road for the league. One thing I won't have to worry about down the line is Sand Attack, which Pidgeot hits me with after Rock Slide fails to get the one shot, and things fall apart on Execute. Slash misses, it hits me with Leech Seed, Slash leaves it on red health, it then hits me with Stun Spore cutting my speed, and Alakazam has no problems finishing off Dugtrio. In the next battle, Pidgeot doesn't ruin my accuracy, going for Wing Attack instead, and Dugtrio avoids Execute's Leech Seed as Slash 2-shots it. Alakazam is an easy 1-shot, and the tanky turtle Blastoise is a 3-shot with a combination of Dig and Slash. After defeating Giovanni, I'm going to backtrack and head to the 10th floor for the Carbos, which I didn't mean to pick up, it's just habit, the rare candy, and the TM for Earthquake. Dugtrio doesn't learn this until level 47, but I can teach it after I defeat Sabrina since I won't need Dig as an overworld move anymore. I also pick up the TM for Mimic before heading to Sabrina's gym, and things go terribly. I didn't heal before this battle. Slash easily one-shots her first 2 Pokemon, but Venomoth hangs on and hits me with Stun Spore. It chips me down some with Psybeam before I finish it. Alakazam is last, and look at this sequence of events. Turn 1 recover, Slash hits it to bring it to red health. Psybeam brings me to 13 HP as I'm fully paralyzed. It misses Psywave as I'm fully paralyzed. It hits Psywave to bring me to 1 HP as I'm fully paralyzed. It heals with recover to green health as Slash hits to finish it. I couldn't believe it. Sabrina had me dead to rights. Let's jump into the final gym leader, Giovanni. Just use Earthquake in this battle. You don't need to use any other move. Rival 6. Pidgeot no longer has Sand Attack, which is great, and I could teach Mimic here for agility just to get a badge boosting move, but I'm hoping it doesn't come to that. Surprisingly, I'm able to make it all the way to Alakazam before taking damage. Slash doesn't one-hit it, and it hits me with a massive Psychic. It also gets a special drop, but even without that, I think Blastoise's Hydro Pump would one-shot me. But I get lucky, as Blastoise just goes for Withdraw, because it sees it as a super effective move due to it being a Water-type move. Like with Wugtrio, I'm going to be picking up the candy in Victory Road. With what's looming in the final 5 trainers for Dugtrio, I'm going to need it. I'm also going to pick up 2 optional battles. The first is against this cool trainer right near the beginning, and the second is against the Chansey cool trainer. This brings Dugtrio to level 50. I have 9 candies in my bag, and I'm going to use 8 of them to bring myself to level 58 before I enter Lorelei's chamber. With both of these Pokemon at the league, let's see how both of our 3-headed Mons fare. Lorelei is first and her lead is Dugong, and we're going to flip back to Wugtrio. I have to 2-shot it with Slash, and against Cloyster I start to have some bad luck with Wrap. I miss 2 out of 4 attacks as it chips me down with Spike Cannon, and I decide to switch to Triple Dive because Cloyster's special is just okay, but it honestly isn't helping me, and I thought this battle was going to be a loss. I almost just took the reset here, but decided to play it out. Against Slowbro, I'm going to go for Wrap because if it chooses an attacking move, I lose, but it just goes for Withdraw. Eventually I switch to Slash, which triggers 2 retroactive Super Potions, and I take out the bulky Psychic type and move on to Jinx. Although it's frail, I use Wrap and Slash strats. I didn't want to take any risk if I made it this far. Last is Lapras, and if Wrap misses, I lose, but it comes in clutch, chipping down her ace to where Slash can finish it off. Bruno's next. I can just use Triple Dive on all of his Pokemon. Normally I just fast forward through Bruno, or just not show him like I did for Hisui and Zoroark, but with how much I've used Wrap in this playthrough, when I redo a Pokemon like Tentacruel eventually, who also gets access to Swords Dance, perhaps I'll keep Wrap with that thing for the entire playthrough and utilize it. I'm starting to have a bit more appreciation for that move after this playthrough. Agatha's next. Since I outspeed all of her Ghost, Dig will easily one-shot them along with the Arbok, and against Golbat, I use Wrap strats because I don't want it confusing me or using Haze. It ends up using both in the battle, but I don't get punished hitting myself in confusion, and we can just move on to Lance. For this battle, I've taught Blizzard in the place of Dig, just to have something to one-shot his dragons. Against his lead Gyarados, you already know I'm going to utilize Wrap strats. Unfortunately, it does miss once, and Gyarados nails me with a Hyper Beam to nearly one-shot me, but thanks to the recharge turn, I can slash it twice to take it down, and I have Blizzard for his remaining Pokemon, although I do switch to Triple Dive for Aerodactyl. But Wugtrio squeezing out another first try victory against a member of the league and is moving on to the champion. But before we do, let's flip back to Dugtrio. You already know the problems Lorelei can present to ground types. A critical hit with Rock Slide will one-shot Dugong, but I don't get it here. Perhaps I should have trained to 51 or 2 before I pop my candies. Its Aurora Beam does half to me, and I don't want an attack drop. While I can finish off her lead, you need some luck with Cloyster missing Clamp, which I don't get, and Dugtrio takes a reset. I made a mistake in that first battle by not teaching Mimic, which I will need once I make it past her first 2 Pokemon. I fix that mistake for the next battle and get rewarded with a critical hit to one-shot Dugong. But unfortunately I miss my first Rock Slide on Cloyster as its Aurora Beam does a third. My next Rock Slide does hit and crit, doing some decent damage. It then misses a Clamp. Perfect, and I'm able to finish it off. Against Slowbro, I want to mimic Amnesia and then fully set up. I'd prefer for it to go for Withdraw rather than chipping me down with Water Gun. Once I'm fully set up, I have to 3-shot it with Slash, which gives it more time to attack and possibly finish me. Dugtrio survives though and moves on to Jinx. The frail Ice type goes down in one shot from Rock Slide, and last is Lapras. Rock Slide does well over half to it, however, Blizzard connects, finishing me. And that was the closest I made it to defeating Lorelei, let alone making it to Lapras for a while. So many battles would just end at Cloyster, and it began to get very frustrating. However, on my 6th try against Lorelei, I get a critical hit with Rock Slide to one-shot Dugong. I 2-shot Cloyster with Rock Slide thanks to a critical hit, but also get an attack drop from its Aurora Beam, which will badge boost my other stats. Mimic Amnesia from Slowbro, fully set up while getting taken down to 16 HP and 4-shotting it with Slash thanks to a retroactive Super Potion and choosing the wrong move to attack it with. One-shot Jinx with Rock Slide even after an attack drop. And then against Lapras, I can only pray. Rock Slide does maybe a third because of that attack drop. Blizzard misses. Rock Slide then brings it to red health as she uses a retroactive Super Potion, and Slash can finish off her ace. I finally defeated Lorelei. Bruno thankfully doesn't cause any trouble unlike Lorelei did. Just use Earthquake and Slash. Same goes for Agatha. Earthquake and Rock Slide one-shot her entire team. But now we have to deal with Lance and his opening Gyarados. This thing seems to have 100% accuracy with Hydro Pump and Hyper Beam. Rock Slide gets a crit as Gyarados hangs on with a Sliver and Lance uses a Hyper Potion. Rock Slide once again crits, leaving it on a Sliver as Hydro Pump hits me to wipe me out. In the next battle though, Rock Slide crits for a 3rd time, but gets a better roll and one-shots Gyarados. I can use Earthquake on the next 2 Dragonairs, and I still outspeed one even after it uses an Agility after Earthquake gets a bad roll. Rock Slide does about 3/4 to Aerodactyl, as Bite crits me, doing over half. I take it down and move on to his ace Dragonite. Rock Slide, with a crit, brings his ace to low yellow health. It retaliates with Hyper Beam though to finish off my Pokemon. And like with Lorelei, battles can just end at Gyarados, and while I did make it to Dragonite a few times, I lost to Lance 9 times in total. It's nothing like my very first Arcanine run on the channel where I lost about 17 times I think to Lance. That was frustrating. And that was when I played with a rule that J-Rose has where I wouldn't save between Elite Four members. It was the worst. I've also gotten rid of that rule since then because it just made things frustrating and overall not very fun for me. But I finally get this attempt where the stars align. Rock Slide crits to one-shot Gyarados. Earthquake then one-shots both of the following Dragonairs, even critting one. Rock Slide then crits Aerodactyl to one-shot it, and I have full health for Dragonite. Rock Slide looks like it's a 3-hit, and maybe I should switch to Slash. It sets up agility and goes for the speed boosting move again. However, my next Rock Slide crits to take down Lance's ace. Finally, both Pokemon are moving on to the champion. Let's stick with Dugtrio. Rock Slide leaves Pidgeot in yellow health as Wing Attack does pathetic damage. Kind of surprising considering our paper-thin defense. I can finish it off and move on to Alakazam. I briefly considered mimicking something like Recover, but it really won't help me out against Blastoise considering Hydro Pump, and more than likely Blizzard will one-shot me. I just go for Slash, which it survives, but it just sets up Reflect and I can finish it off on the next turn. Rhydon wastes its only turn in battle missing a Tail Whip, which would have been nice for badge boost purposes, but I'm going to level up right before Blastoise, so it defeats the purpose anyway. Arcanine goes down to an Earthquake, and next is Exeggutor. Here, I'm going to mimic Hypnosis. We trade misses before it hits me with a Stomp, and I put it to sleep. Slash is going to be a 3-hit KO, and the Coconut Tree cooperates, snoozing along as I take it down and move on to his ace. Hypnosis thankfully hits, and I need it to stay asleep. I start popping Earthquakes as the Tanky Turtle stays snoozing, and Dugtrio clocks in. It finishes with a real time of 50 minutes and 33 seconds at level 63 with an in-game time of 2 hours and 54 minutes, saving almost an hour of in-game time from my previous run, and honestly, I'm very impressed with this thing, but we still have one more Pokemon to cross the finish line. Blizzard opens with a miss as Pidgeot charges for Sky Attack, but luckily my next one hits, one-shotting the bird. I can one-shot the following Alakazam and Rhydon with Slash and Triple Dive. Moving on to Gyarados, I want to wrap this thing down, and I don't want to be missing. I don't want another Hyper Beam to the face. And luckily that doesn't happen, and I bring it down to a range where Slash can take it out and move on to Arcanine. Triple Dive hits twice, leaving it at just under half health as it hits a takedown doing around half to me. I take it out and move on to his ace Venusaur. Even if I was at full HP, I'm sure Razor Leaf would one-shot me, but with my current HP, I almost feel like it's 50-50 for Mega Drain to take me out as well. I go for Wrap just praying to the RNG gods that I don't miss. I get it to around half health, pop a Blizzard, which does finish off his ace. Wugtrio clocks in with a real time of 47 minutes and 58 seconds at level 63 with an in-game time of 2 hours and 48 minutes. Only 6 minutes of in-game time separate these Pokemon, and I'll be real, I just didn't have time for a Wugtrio follow-up. I'll make a community post or a pinned comment sometime down the line when I get to it, but for now, we'll bring up the tier list. Wugtrio for now finds itself at the bottom of the B tier, with the Galarian birds who also need follow-ups, while Dugtrio, who was a C tier Pokemon on my old tier list, remains in the C tier. As I start to do first stages and middle evolutions and get around to more redos, I'm sure I'll balance this out a bit more, or perhaps I'll separate first forms and final evolutions. Either way, thank you for the continued support on the channel. There are a few more backports I've had scheduled before we dive back into some Gen 5 runs and even into some Gen 6 runs, because there's a certain electric type from the Kalos region I have my eyes on. I don't know if I'll have a video next week for y'all. Next Saturday is actually my 1-year wedding anniversary, and I've already got reservations for dinner, present, along with my wife's birthday present, which falls at the end of this month, so I'm pretty busy with all that, along with work and everything else just kind of kicking my ass. And my kitten Nugget, who can finally start to have some free roam around the house since he's all caught up on his shots and worm free. Hopefully he doesn't mess with my other cat Calypso too much. I'll catch you guys in my next one. Take care, everybody.